I'm going to be showing you how to make some easy and affordable Valentine's Day gifts, and this is also a collaboration video with my friend Ginny V from over at Crafty Geeky, and I will have her video and her channel linked in the description box, and she's amazing, so go check out her video definitely, and her channel in general. So we're both doing Valentine's Day themed videos, and I hope you guys enjoy, and let's just get right into the video.
So for the peas, you're going to take some light green felt and fold it over, and then I'm just using my spool here to trace out 2 circles, but when you cut them out it's going to be 4. And then just taking a needle and thread, we're going to sew them together right sides together, leaving a small opening. So just simple hand stitching. And when you get finished and you have the opening, go ahead and leave your needle and thread on there and then flip it inside out. And then stuff it with a little bit of stuffing. You could even use a cotton ball if you had one. Now very carefully close the opening, and you can try to fold in the edges, but it might not work, it might be too small. But I tried folding them in and then just stitch it closed, and that's why I left the thread hanging on there, because then you didn't have to retie it and start over. And then you're just going to repeat all these steps for the second pea. And then to add some cuteness, I went ahead and drew some little faces on the peas. Now it's time to make the pod, and I just used a darker green felt. And I put the peas on there to kind of estimate how big it would need to be. Then I cut a kind of leaf shape around the peas, and you might want to make it a little bit bigger than I made mine. Now put your peas in the middle of the leaf, and you're going to kind of pinch the 2 sides, and so they fit in there snugly, and you're going to hand stitch the 2 sides closed. If you don't want the peas to fall out, you can go ahead and glue them in if you want, but I like the idea of being able to take the peas in and out of the pod. And then just repeat it to the other side. And then you can pop your little peas in the pod. Next is the heart-shaped puzzle. And my first tip on this is to use a thicker corrugated cardboard, but I just used a cereal box. So go ahead and draw out a heart shape and cut it out. And then I flipped it over to the side that had the print on it, and I went ahead and painted it all pink. And this took a few coats to get it completely opaque. And after it was all dry, then I went ahead with a darker pink and I wrote "Love You." I wanted it to look like a conversation heart, so you can choose whichever one you want. And I let that dry, and then I did a coat of Mod Podge. And after you let that dry completely, flip it over to the back side and draw out the puzzle pieces. You can probably find a pattern online, but I just kind of eyeballed mine. It would have been easier to use a pattern though. And go ahead and cut your puzzle apart. And my second tip for this would be to use an X-Acto knife, especially if you end up using a thicker cardboard. It's just much easier to cut with. I couldn't find mine, and these scissors were very difficult to cut around the tiny little pieces. And then give it to someone like this and have them put it together. Now the reason you'll probably want a thicker cardboard is because mine was extremely difficult to put together. It was really difficult for it to stay together, really. I mean, it wasn't hard to put together, but the pieces wouldn't stay, so it kept moving around. So I highly suggest a corrugated cardboard, and if you just use an X-Acto knife, and then just follow the same steps. But I still think it turned out pretty cute. Alright, next we're going to do the Oreo frogs, and I actually found this on Pinterest or Facebook or something, so this isn't my original idea. I will link the original one in the description box, but I'm just going to show you how to make it. So I'm just taking some almond bark, and I'm just getting 2 little chunks here. I'm using white because you want to be able to color it. And melt it using 30-second intervals in the microwave. And now I'm using a baggie and a piping tip. Now this isn't really necessary because it didn't really work, as you'll see, but it's up to you. Then fold over the top of the Ziploc bag so you don't get the outside all messy. And spoon in some of the almond bark. This didn't work out as well as I thought because the almond bark is really runny and it just ran right through the tip instead of being able to pipe it, but it did work out eventually. Just had to let it run out a little bit. So with the white, I just piped on some little circles for the eyes. Now you can buy candy eyes to put on top, and that's what they did in the original recipe, but I couldn't find any, so I just made my own. Then using this little stick that came in the piping kit, I'm just kind of evening everything out. Then taking the remaining little bit of melted almond bark, I'm making it red. And again, for the tongue, they actually used little heart-shaped candies, but again, I couldn't find any that would work just right, so I just made my own little tongues. And again, it'd be better if you bought them because my tongues did not turn out very well. So I'm just kind of spooning some mixture on and spreading it out with the stick and trying to make it look like a tongue. I had to cut them down before I put them on the frogs though, but not too big of a deal. And you want all this to set up, and then when your eyes are all set up, I took some black food coloring and a toothpick, and I'm just going to kind of paint on the little pupils. Now melt the rest of your almond bark and dye it green. And put in 2 pretzels, and I'm using a fork to kind of fish these out. And let the excess almond bark drip off. And set this on some wax or parchment paper. So the first frog I tried, I put the pretzels like this. And then I used red velvet Oreos because they're red and Valentine-y and they taste good, but you can use regular Oreos or golden Oreos or whatever. And just coat that and drip off the excess. And then set this on top of your pretzels. And while the almond bark is still melted, go ahead and put the tongue around the mouth area. And pop the 2 eyes on top. the second one, I put the pretzels side by side, and I think this one turned out a lot better. But just experiment and see what you like best. So now I've got some cute Valentine frogs. And to give them away, I thought it would be cute to make some heart lily pads. So just draw out a big heart on some red paper and cut it out. And then I wrote on one side of the heart, Happy Valentine's Day, because it's a frog and it hops and I like puns. And then just set your little frog on top and there you have it. Alright, now onto the bath bombs. Go ahead and add 1 cup of baking soda, 1 cup of citric acid. I didn't have a cup, but I just used what I had. Half a cup of cornstarch, and mix that together. And in a separate bowl, you're going to do the wet ingredients. So you're going to do half a cup of melted coconut oil, and again, this recipe isn't mine, but I will link the original one down below, and it's supposed to be a Lush copycat recipe. So just go ahead and melt your coconut oil, and I added some food coloring. Now I messed up on this because this food coloring did not work very well in my bath bomb. It turned out a light pink, but the bath didn't turn any colors. So if you want a more vivid color, I would suggest using a more vivid color of food coloring, and maybe in the tubes instead of in this little pot. So go ahead and add that to your coconut oil. And then I added some tea tree oil, and then some rose scented oil. And you want to add quite a bit. And slowly pour the wet into the dry ingredients, mixing constantly. Now it's time to shape them, and I have these little heart-shaped molds, but if you don't, you can just shape them with your hands. I did a couple like that. So go ahead and put them in your mold or whatever you have. And I wanted mine to be 3D, so I put it in the mold and then I just built up on top of it. So just make all of these and let them dry overnight. I actually let mine dry 2 nights, just to make sure they're completely dry. And then to package them, you can just put them in a cute little jar. And you're finished.
I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up down below. If you found me from Ginny V, then hello and welcome to my channel, and I hope you enjoy it here. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed both of our videos, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!